Good morning to everyone. My name is Dr. Leanne Williams. I'm the founding director of the Stanford Center for Precision Mental Health and Wellness. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you all to this anniversary symposium. As you will hear, Dr. Lloyd Minor lays out a transformative vision for precision health. It is essential that we make the same advances for precision mental health. This is our goal. The vision for our center is for a world in which our best clinical neuroscience and technology can be used to detect and treat mental health disorder, prevention becomes possible, wellness is promoted, and understanding replaces blame. Today, you will hear about some of our breakthroughs in realizing this vision. There couldn't be a greater urgency to find new solutions for taking care of our mental health. The experience of the pandemic brings this urgency into laser-sharp focus. We have all felt the ripple effect of additional stresses. We've experienced the lack of connection and the stretch on our brain circuits. Already, we knew that mental health affects 1 in 5 of us. During this pandemic, the number has doubled. Today, I want the message to be one of hope, that there are solutions and that breakthroughs are possible. It is essential that we accelerate them. Accelerating solutions always takes a team. It takes vision, leadership, and dedication to create anything of lasting value. Let me take this opportunity to share my heartfelt thanks. My heartfelt thanks to Lloyd Minor, Dean of the School of Medicine, Laura Roberts, Chair of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences, and Ruth O'Hara, Senior Associate Dean for Research in the School of Medicine and co-director of our center. A feature of our center is the intentional partnership between senior and early stage investigators. Today, you will hear from our distinguished senior faculty and co-directors, Drs. Max Wintermark and Ruth O'Hara. And you'll also hear from exceptional early career investigators, Drs. Laura Hack and Leonardo Tozzi. Turning now to special credits. I want to give special credit to the Stanford Medicine Leadership Academy and to Gino Schnell, who is the powerhouse behind it. The Academy supports Stanford Medicine's vision. It does so by strengthening the capacity of faculty to create change. Because of the support from the Academy and Gino Schnell, the proposal for our center became a reality. There are many sources of vital support that make our research possible. Our dedicated research participants and our wider community, our philanthropic partners who make novel findings possible, Stanford research grant support that has facilitated collaboration, and grant support from the National Institutes of Health. There are many other faculty and partners who deserve credit and recognition. They have shared brilliant ideas and given their time. On the screen is a link to a video we made when pitching the center. I invite you to watch it and to get a sense of the goals that motivated us. I especially welcome you to check out the rolling credits at the end. You'll see the illustrious faculty who have contributed, and I can't thank them enough. The center is intended to foster collaboration, and we consider this a key criterion for success. This map highlights the connections we have already created. The pins show the locations of the multiple faculty and research facilities across campus that contribute to the outcomes you will hear today. The collaborations have proved to be a winning combination. It reminds us that Stanford is exactly the right place to lead transformations in mental health. As you will also hear in the talks today, our collaborations span across the United States. These pins show our collaborations that include both university and veterans affiliations across the United States. I'm also privileged to have a dedicated team of lab members. They are the scientific anchor for the current structure of the center. And it is my great privilege to share a special thanks to Hosna Omazad, the founding executive director for our center. Her dedication and care are the backbone of all of the collaborations you will hear about. Please do contact Hosna if you're interested in joining the center or supporting its mission. Also, a special thanks to our extraordinary executive's assistant, Anna Boken. Today would not be possible without her expert organizational support. A special thanks to Amy Hu, Rob Huffman, and Ryan Roberts, and their Stanford video team. Their expertise ensures you have a quality production for today. And now some reminders. We are live streaming and recording, and an edited copy of the recording will be available after the event. We welcome your questions. Please put them in the chat and the team will answer as we go. Then after the presentations, we will have a live Q&A and panel discussion. There are many ways to get involved. We would love you if you're interested in becoming a research member, your lab, or as a faculty member. These are the QR codes to contact us. In parallel to the research, we have established a corporate members program, and we invite your involvement in that program. And of course, nothing could happen without our research participants. And during the breaks between the talks, we will display the studies that are currently recruiting. Of course, the novel solutions we will share with you also rely on philanthropic partnerships. To help us find solutions, please reach out via this email contact or cell number to Lyra Ghosh. We invite your research participation and we welcome your partnership. So please contact us with your expressions of interest. We're absolutely thrilled that you are joining us today. Let's now turn to the symposium program. It is now my absolute pleasure to introduce Dean Lloyd Minor. Dean Minor has shown extraordinary leadership in proposing a transformative new vision for health and healthcare, focused on precision health. Under his leadership, Stanford Medicine is going beyond precision medicine. The school is embarking on a fundamental shift to more proactive and personalized healthcare. With this shift, people are empowered to lead healthier lives. In his book, Discovering Precision Health, Dean Minor eloquently describes how we are in the midst of a revolution in science and technology. Because of this revolution, we can achieve a more precise understanding of disease. We can also identify the determinants of health and well-being. It is truly apt that Dean Minor's roadmap for precision health is catalyzed by innovations here at Stanford. Disruptive thinking is what has spawned innovation in Silicon Valley and throughout the world. On a personal note, I am deeply grateful for Dean Minor's belief that mental health is an integral part of precision health. This united goal is at the heart of the mission of our center. I'm also deeply grateful for his support to launch this first in the world center to focus on precision health for mental health. Please join me in welcoming Dean Lloyd Minor.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Williams. I'm so honored to be with you here today, although I wish we were together in person. Dr. Williams, I want to congratulate you for an inspiring and highly innovative vision for the future of mental health research and care. And also, I want to thank Dr. Laura Roberts, the chair of the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences, for her leadership that has brought so many talented people to Stanford and that has nurtured an environment in which discovery, research, and translation thrives. Dr. Williams mentioned about our vision for precision health, and maybe I'll say a few words about how that came about and why I'm so excited about the vision for precision mental health. When I came here now 9 years ago, it was just as people were beginning to talk nationally about precision medicine. Susan Desmond-Hellmann, the then chancellor at UCSF, held a conference. It's the first time I'd seen the words precision medicine used in 2013 at UCSF. And then President Obama, in his State of the Union address a year or so later, spoke about precision medicine, namely using the tools of genomics and data science in order to personalize, individualize the treatment of severe acute diseases like cancer and heart disease. And as I began to have conversations with faculty here at Stanford about what our vision for our collective future should be, certainly precision medicine was high on the list, and we do precision medicine at Stanford every day in the care we provide to our patients in our hospitals and in so many other ways. But we thought we should really try to go beyond precision medicine and focus on precision health. That is, how do we leverage the enablers of genomics and data science in order to be better at predicting and preventing diseases altogether? And yes, there's always going to be a need for precision medicine, but by focusing more on precision health, we'll actually be more successful in the end at promoting health and healthcare because we will have either prevented diseases or detected them much earlier and treated them, therefore, far more effectively. But the key notion is that we have to have an understanding of mechanisms, and we have to be able to apply that understanding in ways that achieves better health and better health care. And I think that's exactly what Dr. Williams and her colleagues are doing in such an innovative way in the vision for precision mental health. For all too long, diagnoses, and as people in this meeting today can speak to better than me, diagnoses in psychiatry have been very general, very vague, oftentimes lacking specificity, and therefore inhibiting our ability to study and determine what the very best treatment approaches would be. I would say it was akin perhaps to the treatment of breast cancer 20, 25 years ago. There was a huge amount of controversy, remember, at that time about how much surgery was necessary. Was radiation effective? Should a lymph node dissection be done? And the chemotherapy was all sort of off-the-shelf chemotherapy. And then the treatment of breast cancer was totally transformed by a number of different developments. One is better clinical research to track outcomes, but also really understanding tumor biology and the various receptors that play a role in tumor biology, and then targeted therapies to those receptors. Today, the treatment of breast cancer is tailored to an individual and the tumor in that individual. And as a result, the outcomes are much better because it's not one size fits all for a disease that is inherently very diverse and manifests itself very differently in individuals. But it's a therapy and a treatment approach tailored to that individual and their disease. I think that's exactly what Dr. Williams is doing with psychiatric diseases that have in the past eluded a really more precise understanding of mechanisms and therefore a more precise understanding of the best treatment and ultimately the best prevention approaches. Through advanced imaging techniques, Dr. Williams and her colleagues are obtaining a much greater understanding about the different types of depression. And by correlating that imaging data with behavioral data, rigorously obtained behavioral data, we're able to get insights into the actual mechanisms of depression and ultimately understanding those mechanisms, and a rigorous study of different treatment approaches in light of those mechanisms and that additional data will help us to tailor therapies and ultimately prevention strategies, I believe, to individuals. It's such a wonderful goal and such a highly needed approach. So I congratulate Dr. Williams for the amazing work that she and her team are doing, and thank you all today for participating in this conference. And it's now my privilege and honor to turn the virtual podium over to Dr. Laura Roberts, the chair of the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences at Stanford. Dr. Roberts is an institutional leader serving in a number of important leadership roles around Stanford University. She's also a prolific author and editor. Currently, she's the editor of Academic Affairs, and with her leadership, Academic Affairs is achieving new levels of impact and has become an essential part of all of us involved in medical education. Dr. Roberts.
Hello, my name is Dr. Laura Roberts, and I have the privilege of serving as the chair of the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences in Stanford Medicine. It is a great honor to welcome you to our symposium. Today's anniversary symposium focuses on the fundamental importance of mental well-being to human health. As highlighted in Dean Miner's remarks, precision mental health is integral to precision health. With our experiences during the pandemic and with ongoing challenges across the world, we are more aware today than ever before of just how precious our mental well-being is. Today, you will hear about exciting advances that bring hope for people living with or at risk for mental health disorders. As a leader in academic medicine, I feel so fortunate to have a sense of the extraordinary progress across the biomedical sciences and within psychiatry specifically. It's wonderful to see and support the translation of scientific discovery to clinical care, allowing prevention and treatments that restore good lives for people and families, and at scale, create better lives for all within communities and populations. Together with our patients, our scientists, clinicians, trainees, and staff, we at Stanford are creating a new paradigm for modern psychiatry. The Center for Precision Mental Health and Wellness is a key to this new paradigm. The center was founded in 2018 by the faculty and national leaders who have their academic home in the department. Stanford Psychiatry is the nation's epicenter for precision psychiatry. The center's advances are made possible through a truly collaborative approach, bringing more precise diagnoses and treatments based on neuroscience discoveries to help people, to help families, to help communities, to help populations, and to help future generations. You know, major mental disorders are very common, affecting hundreds of millions of people worldwide. They hit early, they hit hard, and unrecognized and untreated, they can change the trajectory of a lifetime and of generations. Though treatment is remarkably effective in improving quality of life and reducing the burden of symptoms and impairments, finding the right treatment is too often a process of months or years. Moreover, mental disorders can complicate and worsen risks associated with other health conditions. For example, depression increases the risk of cardiovascular-related deaths threefold. Mitigating such mental health consequences requires the best cutting-edge prediction, prevention, and preemption strategies that translational neuroscience can provide. Harnessing advances in the field of biomedical sciences, medicine, engineering, education, social sciences, and ethics will be key in revolutionizing the diagnosis and treatment of mental illness with greater precision, personalized care, precision health. It is my great pleasure to announce today the launch here at Stanford of a first-in-world translational precision mental health clinic. This exciting new clinic will make scientific breakthroughs in precision psychiatry available to our patients. Because of its pioneering new approaches, the center is leading the way for precision psychiatry within our field. Other centers at other institutions are already seeking to model their approach on the approach that we have at Stanford Psychiatry. In these many ways, the Center for Precision Mental Health and Wellness is a shining example of how our department has become a platform from which to branch out and serve our campus, our community, and our world. We welcome your engagement and ongoing partnership as we realize the biomedical revolution for modern precision psychiatry. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Dean Miner and Dr. Roberts, for your continued support, kicking off our anniversary symposium and highlighting the center's alignment with School of Medicine's vision for precision health. We look forward to hearing further on how the center has catalyzed this knowledge mentioned into a new model of detection, treatment, and prevention. It is my pleasure to now introduce Dr. Leanne Williams, founding director of the Stanford Center for Precision Mental Health and Wellness. With her leadership, the center is advancing radical new ways to understand mental health and treat mental disorders. Dr. Williams will be presenting on precision mental health using neuroscience insights to inform personally tailored based care. With that, I welcome Dr. Williams.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction. I am thrilled to talk with you today about precision mental health. And thank you also to Dean Miner and Dr. Laura Roberts for their kind and inspiring remarks. As highlighted in Dean Miner's remarks, Stanford has made enormous strides in moving from precision medicine to precision health. And that is the goal for precision mental health, to make those same strides. We have a structure in which we bring together new advances in technology, in understanding the brain, and in subtyping individuals, and including big data and sensor information in order to better understand individual experiences of depression and other disorders, ultimately tailor treatments, and then move to prevention. This vision is for a world in which our best clinical neuroscience and technology can be used to detect and treat mental health disorder, that prevention becomes possible, wellness is promoted, and understanding replaces blame. Mental health, as has been highlighted, is something that affects all of us in some way or another, either personally or through our family or through our larger networks. If we look at the numbers, we know that at least 1 in 5 adults will experience a mental health disorder each year. For young people, it is 1 in 6 people who will experience a mental health disorder each year. And during the pandemic, we've really felt the stretch on our brain circuits and our own mental health capacity. And according to the CDC, those numbers for adults have now increased, they've doubled. So more like 2 in 5 rather than 1 in 5. And similarly, staggering increases in the reporting of mental health symptoms in our young people. The ripple effect can be felt more widely. Mental health issues contribute to being twice as likely to drop out of school or work. They contribute to a 40% higher risk of other chronic diseases. 37% of adults and 70% of youth in our prison systems are experiencing a mental health issue. Similarly, 41% of veterans disproportionately experiencing a mental health issue. And more than 8 million of us are caring for a loved one with a mental health issue. 1 in 8 visits to the emergency department involve a mental health problem. And it is not surprising but staggering that we lose $1 trillion in global productivity each year because of the impact of these disorders. And therefore, it is also staggering and not surprising that depression has become the single leading cause of disability. And this staggering statistic reminds us that depression is typically a chronic illness. And because it can often affect our young people and then have a chronic course, it has this sad effect of affecting their school, work, and ongoing life. Sadly, depression and other disorders are all too often fatal. And according to the World Health Organization, every 40 seconds, someone dies by suicide. We've known about these problems for a long time. We want and need solutions, and that is one of the themes today. The center will make it possible to accelerate solutions, and we can ask why might that be the case. We have intentionally focused on overcoming some of the major barriers to progress. Those barriers include, for example, conducting basic science studies on understanding the brain in detail at the same time as we focus on clinical translational studies that accelerate those discoveries to the clinic. And in doing so, we don't make the assumption that incredible new insights will simply parachute themselves into the clinic. When I launched the center, this article was written on our goals, and it posed the question of whether we can do for depression what has been done for cancer. And it was highlighted that this won't be easy. It's not easy, but we believe that with this integrative approach, the focus on the basic science mechanisms at the same time as we focus on translation will accelerate solutions. And we will share some of these breakthroughs with you today. We are inspired by the transformations that have been made in other areas of health, and some of those were touched upon in Dean Miner's remarks. So we can think about cancer medicine, where in a rapid time frame, we've moved from a general one-size-fits-all approach to having multiple tests that have precision, and combined with big data and data analytics, we can understand each person's individual type of cancer and continually refine that understanding. And as Dean Miner highlighted, that gives us a way to tailor the treatment to your individual needs. And as we develop the insights to focus on prevention. More recently, the same breakthroughs have been achieved in cardiology and heart medicine. Because of advanced imaging, we now have a detailed understanding of the heart, and that gives us a way to understand what types of heart disease can be present. Are they to do with structure? Are they to do with electrical function? And in what direction are they occurring? It also gives us a way to identify risk factors and then to personalize treatments, spanning the range of lifestyle interventions through to surgery. With this inspiration, this is our goal for achieving the same precision for mental health. I focus on depression because it is the #1 disability cause and a very big public need, and we have insights that give us traction on addressing this goal, and that will form a platform for expanding to other areas. Our current way of thinking about depression tends to think of it as an umbrella category, even though there are hundreds and hundreds of different ways that people can experience depression. Currently, we have a general umbrella category. So what we are seeking to do, and I will share with you, is break this down into individualized subtypes that explain what type of depression you may be experiencing, how your experiences relate to your biology and to your life experience. What we focus on to do this is the brain, specifically functional brain circuits. Sometimes these are called networks. These circuits are important to focus on as the most proximal organ of interest or level of function of interest relevant to mental health. In the same way that we focus on the heart when we're thinking about heart health, here we focus on the functioning of the brain when we think about mental health. Let's have a little closer look about this brain circuit concept. We assess brain circuits using functional magnetic resonance imaging. Typically, you might think of magnetic resonance imaging, or MRI, as giving you this detailed static image of the anatomy of your brain. And those images are incredibly important for understanding For example, whether there may be a lesion or other kinds of anatomical problems present. What is unique about functional MRI is it takes multiple snapshots of your brain in action, and it does so within a couple of seconds, and in our most advanced imaging within several hundred milliseconds. And that gives us a way to look at how the brain is functioning and changing. And here is a little graphic that shows if we ask your brain to respond to a different type of task, let's say the one in red, you may be pressing buttons and attending to something, we can compare the activity relative to a comparison condition. And from those timestamps, we can extract these different circuits that are responsible for different kinds of functions. And these are the functions that we find are disrupted in conditions such as depression and anxiety. Let's have a look at these circuits. So I will focus on 6 of them, and these are the 6 we've been investigating because they are not only implicated in important human functions like how we regulate emotion and thought, but they are the ones we most consistently see disrupted in depression and anxiety. The first one in blue, we call the default mode circuit. It is one that tends to be apparent when you're freely thinking, you're essentially letting your mind freely reflect maybe on memories, on your internal thoughts. And sometimes in states of depression or anxiety, it can get stuck and you will focus too much on perhaps your negative internal self-talk or worrying about the future. This one in green is called the salient circuit. It is one that attends or keeps a radar, so to speak, out for salient signals either internally or in your environment. So it can alert us to what we may need to orient our attention to. Maybe it's signals of pain internally or negative feelings of anxiety, physical signs of anxiety, or salient events in the environment. This one in orange, we call the negative affect circuit. It is the one that responds to negative and especially threat-related information and cues. Our human brain tends to be biased towards responding to negative events to keep us surviving. And that means if it stays on, if it stays in alarm mode, so to speak, we can experience an ongoing feeling of anxiety and those physical signs of alarm mode. The one in purple we call the positive affect or reward circuit, and it is the one that responds to positive emotions, both basic emotions such as food or social rewards such as interacting socially and bonding. In depression, this circuit can become dampened and dysregulated, and you get this sense of feeling flat and that the world feels grey. The attention circuit is the one that keeps us focused, keeps our attention sustained, and is the one that may be particularly stretched during the pandemic. The 6th one in red is called the cognitive control circuit, and it is our executive, so to speak, our frontal executive brain. It helps us plan ahead, reflect on our behaviors, and is a very, very effortful circuit. One of the major accomplishments through our center has been to develop a system and pipeline for a standardized way to quantify these circuits. We consider this a big breakthrough because it makes it possible to move towards quantifying the circuits in subgroups and then in individuals. So how we've done this is, first of all, we have defined using functional neuroanatomy and atlases the key regions of the brain that contribute to these circuits. And we then quantify the amount of activation or the extent of connection between them And in this second row, it's an illustration of how we can then quantify the dysfunction that may occur in these circuits relative to a healthy reference sample in conditions such as depression and anxiety. And that allows us then to take a brain image and a brain circuit and generate a numerical metric. And that numerical metric is a basis for how we can consider translating these findings into practice. We can think of this as analogous to how we think about a heart rate signal. You can extract metrics from the heart rate signal and you can understand what looks like a normal heartbeat and different types of dysfunction, too fast, too slow, irregular. Of course, these breakthroughs and quantifying brain circuits will only really be meaningful if we can use them to answer questions such as what antidepressant will work for you, what alternative therapy will work for you, what lifestyle intervention will work for you. And this question is one that drives many of our studies. The current situation is that we tend to have this umbrella category, as I've mentioned. So focusing on depression, an umbrella category of depression. We have incredible expertise in our clinical professionals with incredible dedication. They are limited by the lack of availability of tests. So using their clinical expertise, they're able to currently select among a range of treatments that are effective at the group level. It does mean it's difficult to know exactly who may benefit from which of these treatments. So in effect, it is typically a process of trying one of them, waiting and seeing if it works, and then trying another. And what our current numbers tell us is that about 1/3 of people get better on the first treatment they try. Our vision for the future is to use these subtypes, to identify these subtypes and tests for them. And that means integrating multiple sources of information. Today, I'm focusing on brain circuits, but we want to integrate that information with rigorous behavioral measures, with heart rate and other measures, detailed symptom information, genetics, and other blood markers. And that gives us a way to then apply the studies that you'll also hear about, where we can ask which of those tests tells you which treatment is most effective and for whom. So that allows us, as we move to a more precision approach, to use this information in tests to personalize the treatment choice. And our goal is that we would at least double the number of people who get better on the first try. In our cross-validated accuracy from trials undertaken so far, our accuracy is 75 to 81%. So we have hope that we are on the right track, and the promise is that this approach is feasible and will generate new solutions. So let's have a closer look at one of these circuits, the cognitive control circuit, and the studies we've done to explore personalized treatment. The cognitive control circuit is an important one to think about and not typically thought about with depression, because it tends to underlie cognitive problems. Ones like difficulty thinking, difficulty inhibiting thoughts, problems planning ahead. It is not usually associated with depression. However, a number of people will experience this with depression, and it is a criteria for depression. It accounts for, these cognitive problems account for a greater likelihood to not respond to currently available treatments that are given first time. It also accounts for a 4-fold greater likelihood of having the kinds of disabilities that I talked about before. Dropping out of work, having more days in bed because of not being able to function, and so on. So it's really imperative we do better. In two studies I'll mention, we focused on the one hand on the top most commonly prescribed antidepressants, and on the other, a structured behavioral therapy. In the antidepressant study, it came from an international study called iSpot-D that I led, and in total 1,000 patients were enrolled, and of those, 20% were imaged with an fMRI in detail. So in those people, we scanned them at baseline. We focused in on the cognitive control circuit, and other studies looked at other circuits. We then randomly assigned them to one of the 3 common antidepressants for 8 weeks of treatment, and then we assessed outcomes. Did they get better? Did they not get better? And what we found was, if we look at the amount of cognitive control activation, those people who did not get better, did not remit, were the ones who had the most problems in that circuit. So that tells us there already is a measure for saying, can we look at that early and move someone to an alternative treatment earlier rather than trying other antidepressants? You will hear about in future symposia how we look at refining this prediction with other tests, such as genetic tests. The second study is one that was supported by the National Institutes of Health under a priority initiative known as the Science of Behavior Change. And this initiative is focused on how do we understand how changing behavior can change our biology, in our case, our brain function, to improve outcomes. We focused on a problem-solving therapy that has been well established by my co-PI, June Marr, and focused in particular on a personalized way of solving a problem that is interfering most with someone's function when they're experiencing depression, and at the same time combining that with a behavioral activation strategy. And here we scanned the brain before the therapy started, and then at 5 different time points during the therapy. And the goal here was, based on the principles of brain plasticity, could we see that with behavior change, did we see brain change, and did that brain change lead to an improvement in cognition and cognitive control? And we were extremely encouraged to see from these hot off the press results that that is the case. So on the y-axis, we see the improved cognition and capacity to problem solve, and on the x-axis, the change in the cognitive control circuit. And that change in the brain predicted better outcomes over 6 months at the end of therapy and was sustained at 12 and 24 months. So this gives us a kind of inspiration that these alternative strategies may be useful for helping change cognition in one subtype of depression. This study was possible because of an incredible collaboration that spanned the country. It spanned multiple collaborators here at Stanford, collaborations with the University of Illinois, Chicago, and multiple other institutions. When we think about cognition and mental health, it is a way that we can help improve outcomes in our current situation of some people very unfortunately experiencing the effects of post-infection symptoms, what is becoming known as long COVID. So I'll turn on a kind of sideways path just for a moment to say how we can use our insights about cognition and depression to inform an understanding and potentially treatments for people that are experiencing these kind of features following COVID infection. So what we do know from now many reports that people, very unfortunately, some people are experiencing this long haul, long COVID effect, which to us looks similar to this cognitive form of depression. There's a brain fog, which is what we would call the cognitive problems. There's anxiety, depression, and related sleep problems. And we're seeing more and more reports about these cognitive problems combined with mental health symptoms. So we were fortunate with the support of the Innovative Medicine Accelerator at Stanford to launch a study over the past 18 months called the IRIS Neuro Study. And it studies post-infection recovery using our insights from depression. It is an amazing collaboration between psychiatry, neuroradiology, and infectious diseases. And what we have done is drawn on the detailed clinical and blood-based marker information gathered by our infectious disease collaborators and added the assessments that we use in our depression studies, measures of depression symptoms, anxiety symptoms, functional brain MRI, and cognitive behavioral measures. And we've done that post-infection between 6 and 9 months and then 12 months follow-up, and those 12 months are being completed now. What we have found is that, unfortunately, at that first time point, a few months post-infection, we do see up to 1/3 of people experiencing cognitive problems and depression that is similar to what we see in the depression subtype. They show also a similar change in the cognitive control circuit. And you'll see it here on the scan. So this blue area indicates the reduction in activity. This, of course, seems like confronting news, but because of what we've learned from depression and these brain circuits, we believe it holds promise for new ways to intervene and help accelerate the restoration of these brain circuit and cognitive effects following COVID. And those will be new studies you will hear about next symposium. We will also, in our future studies, target another circuit that is impacted with long COVID, and that was the one I mentioned before, the stretch on the attention circuit. And there we see a reduction in connections. And that reduction suggests that the kinds of treatments we're thinking about for depression and cognitive problems may also be relevant here. So a really important question to shift focus is, how do we scale these insights? One of the ways we've done this is through a very exciting collaboration, the Catalyst for Collaborative Solutions collaboration with my co-PI, Chen Bao, and esteemed collaborators listed here. This collaboration was about how do we take the brain-based understanding of mental health and scale it using sensors and wearables. And we turn back to this foundation and premise of heart health. Because really only once we understood the heart in detail with advanced imaging that we could more precisely subtype heart disease, we could personalize treatments, we could then, what we take for granted now, we could develop sensors to do that in a more scalable way. And ultimately now the kinds of apps that we use to track our cardiac health. Now we want to use our discoveries to accelerate this approach for mental health. And we believe that this will help dismantle stigma as well. So our vision is that with these insights we have about the brain and how to subtype depression and other disorders, we can start to personalize treatments as I've described. And now the next step is, how do we connect these insights to sensors and ultimately apps that connect back to them? And a key point here is that we want to develop sensors in a way that are informed by the brain insights. drawing on what has been found to be robust in other areas of health, such as cardiac health. So I will give you one example based on a sensor developed to look at heart rate and to add cortisol. And this sensor came out of the Catalyst for Collaborative Solutions project. It is called Mentate and is an incredible sensor that's suited to use in settings where assessing people with mental health issues. It's very user-friendly and flexible and is incredible design engineering transformation. And here we ran a pilot field study to combine our circuit information with this sensor, the beta version of the sensor, to predict symptoms, and we applied a machine learning approach. The question was, which of these combinations of brain circuits and the sensor, I'm focusing on heart rate here, would help distinguish and predict different types of symptoms? And this example shows you one prediction that was identified with high accuracy. We found that the negative affect circuit involved in responses to threat, combined with our heart rate sensor metrics of heart rate variability, accurately predicted and differentiated anxiety symptoms, and other circuit combinations with other sensor metrics differentiated other types of symptoms. So this gives us hope that this is a tractable way forward to connect brain to sensors. Our vision would be to take this into digitally driven clinical solutions. And as I've mentioned, the differentiator would be the anchoring directly in brain insights. So our roadmap for the future is to keep accelerating these rigorous studies in combination with the focus on translation to the field, to the clinic, and educational dissemination. In this roadmap, it is essential that we continue to gather large data, and you'll hear about that in a moment, and apply the latest computational approaches. You will also hear shortly about other approaches that we'll touch on in future symposia, such as probing our circuits as prospective intervention targets and biomarkers. So not doing an averaged retrospective trial, but prospectively assessing subtypes. And you'll hear from Dr. Laura Hack about one of these approaches with novel compounds. We have also launched precision mental health studies using neuromodulation treatments such as transcranial magnetic stimulation that are a collaboration with VA sites, and that you'll also hear about in future symposia. In our mechanistic studies, we are seeking to understand how experimental drugs affect these brain circuits. And we have ongoing studies looking at low-dose ketamine and MDMA or ecstasy, because these are now emerging as novel therapeutics, but we lack an understanding of how they impact the brain. And this is another extraordinary across-campus collaboration that we look forward to sharing with you in the future. All of this is possible because of the collaborations I have been highlighting. And this map shows the breadth of our collaborations and facilities across the Stanford and VA sites. This map shows examples of how our participants flow across these sites and facilities within our individual studies, and highlights the need for a highly integrated cooperative process. And of course, it takes a team to create anything of lasting value. So my sincere thanks to the participants and community who made this possible, our Stanford leadership, our center leaders, our members and collaborators, our philanthropic partners, and our funding agencies. And we really look forward to welcoming your research participation and your partnership as we go forward on this journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams, for the informative talk and taking us through the roadmap for precision mental health. With that, we will move into our break and return back in approximately 15 minutes.